That was the thing my girlfriend of 3 years asked me repeatedly. In the days leading up to my departure, the start day for my new tracking gig drew closer. I'd be moving to a totally different state. I did just graduate, I do need a job. Trucking has nothing to do with your major. Stay here. To be fair, most jobs have nothing to do with English. That's sort of the issue day after day, though. Myra continued to ask why I was doing this. I could have gone with the easy answer, the money, which really had been why I'd signed my contract in the first place, but the closer my start date got, the more I was sure that wasn't the whole reason I was leaving. How did I put into words this growing feeling inside me? That I couldn't stay. That I wasn't happy there or anywhere really. And how it was slowly suffocating me. And while it wasn't her fault, she also wasn't the solution, as much as she wished her. She could be, so I had to go. I had to. But yeah, I'm fairly sure what I actually did say was just money. Sue me. You can still call me, she said the night before my flight. We'll talk every day while you're driving. Yeah. I don't know, I said. I think probably not. There's a whole section in the employee handbook about how I can only use the radio, so they won't know. How are we supposed to do long distance if we can't talk? I remembered how the bloodied corpse of the other interviewee, skewered to his hood. I remembered the scratch of my own face, pressed to the pavement, as things skittered around my rig. How could I explain why I had to follow the phone rule? 2. I stayed silent, her voice got soft. We're breaking up, aren't we? I think, ha. I think we are. For a second, I thought Myra ha might slap me. She's not mean, but she's impulsive. The type of girl who has a midlife crisis every other Tuesday and frequently shows up with a brand new life philosophy tattooed on her thigh. One of the things I loved about her. But it wasn't always easy to predict what drastic thing she'd do to cope. Instead, she hugged me, kissed me on the cheek, and left. At the door to my apartment, she paused. Goodbye, Brendan. Never speed read a sentence in Section 5A. If you do, it may draw the attention of the Highway Patrol. They are not Highway Patrol. They will not give you a ticket. You do not want to find out what they will give you as punishment instead. Basically, I was around 90 to 95% sure I would die. A morbidly gruesome death. My first real time on Route 33. 3 more of a passing interest than an actual fear. Which probably just demonstrates how damaged my psyche was. I'm happy to report, however, my first haul went off without a hitch. The first section was redwood groves, followed by hours of desert, pockmarked with rundown towns, and finally some twisting mountain canyons. I crashed in the sleeper after delivering my haul at an abandoned building. That's where they told me to leave it. I woke up early the next morning to finish the route, and did so alive and well. My truck stopped for 1:47 at the same part as last time, but there was no additional visit from the things in the forest. Randall hadn't actually seemed overly concerned when I explained to him how I had, in fact, gotten out of the truck during the interview, so I chose not to be too worried for now. Back at the truck yard, I dangled my keys in front of Randall. He whistled 14 hours there and back. That is simply unheard of. Can I ask you what I actually delivered? No. You may not, he smiled. Hickles cheerily and plucked the keys from me. I was still having a hard time figuring Randall out. Either he was a passive-aggressive jerk, or he simply had an odd sense of humor. Either way, he hadn't seemed too concerned when the other man in my interview had gotten savagely murdered. so that probably tipped the scales towards Jerk. My next few weeks went almost equally smooth. Still no incidents in the Redwood section. Randall and the other dispatchers started sending me on longer and longer trips down Route 333. They would last 3, sometimes for days at a time. I didn't mind, I was getting massive amounts of overtime, but I did get the odd sense the dispatchers were almost excited about the fact I was going so far. I knew there was a part in the employee handbook about how the road would expand over time. A drive that took me 4 hours might take another driver 8 or more. Eventually, there would be a breaking point, a rapid expansion, where a section of the road that took you minutes would now take weeks. From tidbits of conversations with other drivers, I got the impression there were truckers who hadn't quit in time, who'd been stuck on Route 333 for years trying to get back. Frankly, most days I didn't care much. For the first time in years, my racing thoughts were finally slowing. My chronic overthinking was fading away to a sense of pleasant numbness. Whatever happened, however this road worked, was the same to me. Before I'd started trucking, I'd been worried that the loneliness would get to me. Now, the only thing I worried about anymore was about how entirely fine I was being this alone. I'd stopped for fuel at a Petro Speed when I heard it at first. I couldn't entirely place the voice, and I just continued filling up. Something nagged the recesses of my mind, though, a thin thread yanking and yanking. Finally, I twisted to see who belonged to the voice. Across the parking lot, I gaped. It was Myra, my ex-girlfriend, talking animatedly with what looked like one of the Petro Speed workers. As I got closer, I could make out their conversation. "What do you mean there's no mechanics in the area?" Myra jabbed a finger at her car. "How am I supposed to keep driving in that thing?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the nearest town is hours away. You'll have to call a towing company." "I don't want to call a towing company. I want to find somebody here." "I understand that, ma'am. But Myra," I asked. She whirled, looking as if she was going to snap at me, to then realized who I was. Her hands flew to her mouth. Then she sprinted at me and threw herself in my arms. I laughed. "This is insane. What are you doing here?" "Looking for you." "Looking for Myra?" "You haven't even called me." "Yes, I did. I've called a dozen times the last few days, and you never picked up. I got worried. I wanted to see you. I wouldn't have picked up. I was on the 3rd day of a 4-day trip. I didn't even bring my phone anymore to avoid the temptation of using it. Something like this, her somehow tracking me down to the middle of nowhere, felt exactly like the sort of impulsive thing Myra would do. Entirely insane, but the exact reason I fell in love with her. "Amazing luck," she said. "If my car hadn't died, I wouldn't have stopped here. Can I ride with you?" We talked for hours. It was just like before. We laughed and sang along to the limited country songs we knew, at ear-shattering volumes. After a few hours, she grabbed my hand and I didn't stop her. I'd thought I was fine with the loneliness, but having her here physically with me, I knew I'd minded more than I let myself believe. "I never thought you'd want to talk with me again." I told her at first I didn't. She stroked my knuckle with her thumb. "I don't think I'll ever stop loving you." I felt amazing. No better than amazing. I felt happy I glowed the whole evening. All up until we stopped at a rest stop for the night, and she slipped into the building for the bathroom. "Everything's good," I reported on my handheld radio, as part of my nightly check-in. Yes, somehow, this radio was capable of connecting back with dispatch. I'd given up wondering how you sound, Chipper. Randall said, "Crazy story, actually." I told him about running into Myra, about how I was giving her a lift back to civilization, and how good it was to see her. He went quiet. You know you aren't supposed to pick up hitchhikers, he said. I didn't. She's not a hitchhiker, I know her. Did she ask you for a ride? No, I offered her a ride. But I hadn't, had I? I would have, but she'd forgotten to ask me first. A slow deadly chill spread up my back. Who are you talking to? Maya reclined into the cab in PJs. Nobody. Nobody at all. She fell asleep instantly. Cuddled up next to me, this was Myra of all people. I knew her, she wasn't a stranger. I hadn't broken any rules. Why wasn't I allowed to just be happy for once? I forced myself to close my eyes, steady my breaths and drift off to sleep. I woke up hours later. It was a gradual wake-up. Something wet was on my face. My eyes didn't snap open instead. For some inexplicable reason, I cracked them open just a fraction. Thin enough, they still appeared closed. She was staring at me in the early morning light. Myra, ha, watched me with an enormous grin across her face, fully awake. She leaned in and ran her tongue from my chin up to my forehead. I love you, she whispered. Do you need the bathroom, I asked. Hours later, we were stopped at a rest stop, a mere hour or two from the end of Route 3. 3-3. The last few hours, the conversation had been tense. She hadn't wanted to get out to stretch her legs. Once I'd pushed, she'd gotten annoyed. Fine, good. You haven't gone all day. You didn't go yesterday either. She giggled like I'd told some joke. She reached out to my face and ran a single, sharpened nail along my cheek. It's almost like you want to get rid of me. I swallowed and pretended to ignore the drip of blood from my chin. Of course not. I took the keys with me when I went to fill up the tank. She pressed her face up against the glass, the whole time smiling down at me, waving incessantly. When I climbed back in, she giggled. Don't take so long, she said. I missed you. We drove. She became increasingly cuddly. Her grip when she held my hand, it was tight to tight. There would be bruises tomorrow. She started leaning across the center divide to kiss my cheek and rake her teeth against my neck. Stop, I said no. I stopped 3 more times to stretch my legs. You should too, I said each time. But she refused. She wouldn't leave. Stop it, she growled. The 4th time we stopped. Her face distorted into a grotesque mask, then softened back into a smile. I'll miss you. Myra, I took a breath. Ha, there's actually something I need to ask you. Yes. It's not something I can ask you in a truck, though. Her face scrunched in annoyance. Her breath grew harsh and gravelly. These last 2 days have been amazing. I said they've made me realize how much I missed you and need to be with you. The thing I need to ask you, I have to kneel for it. A soft smile tugged at her lips. Finally, she relented. She followed me from the truck. As we walked through a clearing in the forest, her steps grew more erratic and grander. More excited, perhaps. The skin on her face looked less smooth and more like plastic. Like something designed in a factory. Close your eyes, I whispered, and sunk my hand into my pocket, showing them. She did. Then I bolted for the truck. It was seconds before she realized what was happening, and even longer before she started after me. By the time the not Myra reached me, the doors were already locked. I was already rolling away. Her face was something entirely inhuman. Her eyes dripped like melted wax from her empty sockets, and her hair peeled off in clumps. No, she screeched. I love you, don't leave me. But I did for the 2nd time. When I returned to the truck yard, I said nothing of what had happened. Randall didn't either, though he seemed visibly surprised to see me. He simply accepted my keys with a wink. Jerk, I decided, definitely a jerk. The first thing I did when I got in my car was make a phone call. The person on the other end picked up. After the second ring, neither of us spoke. We breathed into the receiver, waiting for the other to initiate. Hi, I said hi. How could I ever have forgotten what Myra's true voice sounded like? Nothing in her tone suggested she was anything but safe. Something I already knew, but actually confirming it let me relax for the first time in hours. Brendan, she said. Why are you calling? I don't entirely know. Are you all right? She asked. I'm not sure. She was silent. I was too. You should know. I know it doesn't matter, but I think you should know I'm with somebody new, she said. Okay. That's it, I think so. Yeah, Myra huffed out a laugh. Though I was entirely certain she thought none of this was funny. Why did you do this to me? She snapped. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Brendan, you left after 3 years. No warning, and you never really even told me why. You haven't called once, you haven't texted. Not even to tell me you're all right. I loved you, and you threw me away. Decent people don't do that.